All right, so we've identified 5 things to look for in the playoffs. Why don't you lead it off? What's the first thing we should be looking for in these playoffs?
One thing that comes to mind for me is the Washington-Montreal matchup, and of course, former Canadiens goalie Jose Theodore in goal. We think anyway. I mean, a lot remains to be seen, but we all know what happened with Jose Theodore. His first came back in Montreal in Colorado's Avalanche uniform. It was a disaster,
Yes.
and he hasn't had much success against his former team. So the first round matchup might not be as favorable as everyone thinks for this series.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it unfolding, Theodore will probably get the start. I think the Caps are going to win the first 2 games in Washington, but all bets are off when the series moves to Montreal for Game 3. And if Theodore doesn't handle the pressure of that situation very well, I think we're going to be seeing Semyon Varlamov take over for the Caps before long.
Oh, for sure. And then you also look at, obviously the Caps have the goal-scoring talent, and they
Sure.
got Mike Knuble to add to playoff experience, which is going to help in the long run, I think. But you look at Montreal, I mean, they got Mike Camilleri back from injury, but he's sort of underperforming as of late, and maybe too much was expected from him.
Yeah, I just don't see. I think the Canadians have in a lot of ways overachieved to get to this point, and I just don't see them getting very far once the playoffs start. I think that the real key for them is whether Theodore implodes and they're able to win a game or 2 because of that, but I don't see them taking out the Caps in round 1.
Well, one team that was predicted to underachieve this year was Montreal, obviously, and we look at another team who underachieves this year, perennially actually in the playoffs, is the San Jose Sharks. I mean,
Yeah,
every
that's a
year,
big question mark.
every year they they choke somewhere where we don't expect it, and either in the first round or the second round. 2 years ago it was against Dallas. Last year they got blown out of the water by the Ducks, and this year they seem to have a favorable first round matchup, at least against Colorado, and I do see them moving on at least in round 1.
Yeah, I think the Sharks can advance in round 1. I think Craig Anderson's a very good goalie for Colorado, and if he plays well, then it's going to make a big difference for them. But I have my doubts about Colorado. I think they're a young team, not really ready to make this next step. I think it was a big surprise that they made the playoffs. For San Jose, again to the goaltending, if Jenny Nabokov has really not shown up to be a big-time goaltender, he showed it when he was playing for Russia in the Olympics. He's certainly shown it playing for the San Jose Sharks. And my feeling is that if the Sharks lose in the round 1 or round 2, basically if they don't make the Cup Finals, I think this is Evgeny Nabokov's final season in a Ducks uniform.
In a Sharks uniform, I mean.
In a Sharks uniform, sorry.
But,
yeah.
I mean, a lot remains to be seen on that. Of course, we come draft day, Thomas could be dealt, and San Jose could be one of the suitors. Of course, let's see what the Sharks do in the long run.
Yeah, I think that I don't think good things about this Sharks team going into the playoffs. I think that they are not going to get as far as they hope to, or as far as they should.
And so much uncertainty, too, with Patrick Marleau and the GM Doug Wilson there. So, I mean,
Yep.
a lot remains to be seen. Speaking of which, the Bruins and the Sabres, the Northeast Divisional first-round matchup again. This might be the series to watch, I think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an excellent series. I mean, you've got Ryan Miller on one side, and he has been absolutely sensational, and then the aforementioned Rask for the Bruins. You know, that's going to be a really interesting series, and I think it's a matchup that favors the Bruins quite nicely. I don't know if there's a first-round matchup that would better suit them for them to advance to round 2.
Well, they had success against the Sabres this year,
Yep.
and vice versa. I mean, it was a pretty entertaining 6 games to watch, I think, this year. So I could see I see the Sabres winning in 7 this year. If it comes down to a 1-game showdown, I like Ryan Miller's chances over Tuukka a bit more. That being said, though, I think this could be Tuukka's coming out party, really, for the long run.
If it goes to 7 games, I think you're right. Ryan Miller takes the game at home in Buffalo, but I don't see this series going 7. I think the Bruins win it in 6.
Interesting prediction there. Probably one of your bold predictions, right?
Well, a 6 beating a 3. It's not a huge upset, but it's an upset.
Well, another 6-3 matchup to look at for in the West, Vancouver and LA.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really interesting one. I've really enjoyed watching the development of this Kings team dating back to the NHL lockout when I spent some time up in Manchester watching some of the youngsters playing for the Manchester Monarchs, who are now playing key roles for the Kings in LA. It's a very talented team. There's a lot of promise all throughout their lineup, from defensemen Drew Doughty and Anze Kopitar. I mean, the talent is unbelievable. The question mark, I think, and I keep coming back to goaltending because it is the most important aspect of playoff hockey, Jonathan Quick played very well for the Kings this year. But late in the season, there was a little bit of this maybe Jonathan Bernier, maybe not Jonathan Bernier thing that was going on before Bernier got sent down. And I don't know if that damaged Quick's confidence. I'm curious to see whether it did or not.
Well, maybe for a young goaltender who was playing all these games. I mean, he had been playing, 40 or 50 games in a row, it seemed like.
Yeah.
So maybe a bit of rest was good for the long run for Quick. I mean, a lot remains to be seen, of course. But you look at Roberto Luongo, his numbers aren't stellar this year.
No, they're not.
But Vancouver's offense has bailed him out time and time again this year. And that's a surprise, I think, to me this year, was how well Vancouver did offensively.
And given the way that Luongo played in the Olympics, I think that we've got another surge coming from Luongo where he's going to play very well, and I think he could win a series by himself. Looking at Quick, I agree with you. He played too many games, and that's the fault of the coaching staff and the organization for not providing a backup that was really a suitable option. The problem is, for all of his time with the Kings until this season, John Quick has basically not been perceived as the goalie of the future in Los Angeles. It's been Bernier, Bernier, Bernier. And now here Quick is. He's played so well. He's earned the starting job. To bring Bernier in as the guy to spell him, I'm not sure that's the right message for Quick, and I don't know whether it's a confidence shaker or not.
That remains to be seen, too.
Yep.
I mean, we saw Quick so many games, and then to have Bernier come in all of a sudden, I mean, again, it's a confidence factor, but
Yep,
at the same
exactly.
time, I saw Quick play in UMass, and he was quite good. He was good in postseason. He led UMass to their only NCAA tournament win in their first appearance, actual ever appearance. So, I mean, it's going, he has the postseason experience for another level. I think it's going to help him in the long run.
You know, I think it's an interesting point. You know, as you make it, I'm thinking maybe Quick is the kind of guy who does his best when people aren't believing in him in that way. And if the threat of Bernier still exists, maybe that's what's needed to get the most out of Quick. So it'll be interesting. We talked about teams that were disappointing during the season. Obviously, the Detroit Red Wings didn't do as well as people expected. Philadelphia Flyers, the Boston Bruins, all three teams now heading into the playoffs. Do you think any of them are going to turn things around and really have a strong playoffs?
Well, I think you saw that with the Detroit Red Wings in the second half of the year. I mean, they had all sorts of injuries during the first half, and we thought they were depleted. We thought they wouldn't make the playoffs. We doubted them. And, of course, we were wrong.
Sure.
But one thing that's going to be interesting to watch is Jimmy Howard in the playoffs. If he has a bad game somewhere down the line, will they pull him for the veteran Chris Osgood, who has had historically a great playoff for his career?
Yeah, he's been an excellent playoff goalie for the Wings. And, you know, I wonder how short or long that leash is that Babcock is going to be giving to Howard. I mean, Howard's, you know, by some measures, a Vezina Trophy candidate.
Yep.
So I think it is sort of interesting to think about him being a Vezina candidate, but maybe having a short leash going into the playoffs. And I'm curious to see just how long or short that is.
Well, I don't think it'll be too short because you look at the team, there's so many veterans: Lidstrom, Rafalski, Stewart, Bertuzzi, Datsuk, Zetterberg. I can go on and on, probably
Sure.
Draper, Maltby. But I actually think Detroit's better in leadership through those veterans I just named. I actually think that's going to lead them to a cup this year. I can't really pick against them until someone beats them.
Yeah, I think they're gonna get off to a strong start in the playoffs. How deep they go, a question mark. But with the youth in goal, with the backup that Osgood provides, with all of that veteran experience, it's hard to pick against the Wings pretty deep into these playoffs.
All right, my bold prediction, actually, we're going to see Kings and Wings in the Western Conference Finals.
Wow, the Kings getting that far, and the Wings, after all the disappointment of this regular season, be interesting to see them get that far. Who wins it?
I have the Wings,
All right.
just based on experience.
My bold prediction, I don't know how bold it is, they're a second seed, but I've got the New Jersey Devils winning the Eastern Conference, beating the Kings, beating the Penguins in the Eastern Conference Finals.
I think I'm in agreement with you on that exact prediction, actually, believe it or not. So Devils over Penguins for me, Wings over Kings, Devils over Wings in the Cup.
And I've actually got the Canucks getting to the Cup Finals, and I think that the Canucks are going to fall to the Devils, and it'll be an opportunity for Marty Brodeur to get his comeuppance against Luongo, who took the starting job for Canada in the Olympics.
Well, at any event, it should be a very exciting playoff, so get ready for the 2010 Stanley Cup Playoffs. For now, I'm signing off here at Studio 73 in downtown Boston. For Kevin Greenstein and the rest of the crew here at Studio 73, my name is Tim Rosenthal. We'll see you next time.